You're listening to Turn 2 Podcast presented by Nosebleed Knowledge. Now here's your host, Tucker Franklin.
What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Turn 2 Podcast, the podcast dedicated to all things baseball. I'm here with my boy, KB, Kieran Brennan.
How's it going?
We're here to talk about this week in the MLB. First thing we'll get going is the Astros are really good at baseball.
They are super good. They've won 11 in a row going into tonight. That team, I saw their Friday game and their Saturday game against the Royals, and it didn't help that the Royals were struggling, but I think that is the best team I've seen play baseball in real life.
That's probably...
that's a good team, and then you go watch them and play, and you're like, oh, this is a super good baseball team.
Yeah, that's probably a fair thing to say. And I thought the craziest part when I heard that when they won, 9 straight? Or their 10th straight, that was the longest in the MLB this season. I thought that was kind of absurd that a 10-game win streak was the longest.
Yeah, the Indians had a really long streak last year. What was it, I want to say 14, 15 games, right?
Yeah, it was something like that.
So we still have a lot of baseball left to play, so there's plenty of opportunity for a longer win streak, but when their win streak was at 9, I also saw that was the longest one in the MLB so far this season. But this team is good enough to put one together for a long while. They have a solid 1 through 5 rotation, and top 3 with Verlander, Cole, and Keuchel. Any of those 3 could be any team's ace, and then Morton and McCullers could easily be in any other team's top 3,
Right.
So this is a solid rotation. Their offense is outstanding, and their bullpen is well managed and really good. So, yeah,
Toby.
I guess this is what it's like to watch a good baseball team perform up to its potential.
Yeah, Toby and I were actually talking about the Astros, and he asked me, he said, is there really anything that the Astros can do to get better? And that there's always something you can do to get better. And really, that's a very solid baseball team. And the only thing I could really think of is that their bullpen could have more talent, and that's about it. But their bullpen is still very good. It's very well managed, like you said.
Their bullpen is really good. Really, the only thing you'd be adding to the bullpen at this point is consistency and a big name. Their biggest name is Peacock right now, but everybody else is consistent. I mean, has performed up to their potential. We don't have anybody slacking this season, so they're all playing really well. This is just an all-around great baseball team. In the offseason, we didn't think that they could get any better, and then they traded for Garrett Cole, and we're like, oh yeah, they don't have a whole lot of holes. Their defense is outstanding too.
Now, I don't know this off the top of my head, but have they fought back into first place?
I was just looking at that. The Mariners just came off a tough series against the Red Sox.
Right.
They won. I think the Mariners swept the Angels in their little series that they had with them. But I know I think the Mariners took 1 from the Red Sox, and now they're playing the Yankees. So let me look at it real fast. Yeah, right now the Astros are a game and a half, or the Mariners are a game and a half behind the Astros.
Well, we'll just go ahead and stay there though, and talk about the Mariners. I saw the same thing you saw about how they're going through a tough stretch of their schedule where they have Boston, and they have New York, and then Boston again.
Yeah.
Those are a couple of teams you don't want to see back to back.
Yeah, it's a really tough deal. The Mariners are a good ball team. They're slugging really well. They can slug with the best of them, but this little stretch can tell you is what make or breaks a team. The Mariners have been riding a hot streak so far and been playing really very well, but this stretch of games is what can slow them down. This is what could kill the momentum, and hopefully not. It could honestly send the Mariners into a little bit of a spiral. But if you look at the standings, the Mariners should probably be feeling pretty comfortable about getting, at the very least, that wild card 2 spot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the wild card 2, I definitely think is going to go to either of those teams, whichever one doesn't win the AL West. And really, we know the AL 1 is going to go to the Red Sox or the Yankees, whoever doesn't win the AL East. The American League's really not that tightly contested.
Yeah, like you said, wild card 1 will go to whoever gets second in the East, and wild card 2 will go to whoever gets second in the West. Second in the Central has a below 500 record right now, and so like you said, AL's not as hotly as contested as the National League is.
Now, there's two teams right now that are really, really pretty hot. That usually don't make the postseason. You got the Braves and you have the Mariners. Which team would you be more surprised to see make the postseason?
Honestly, I would be more surprised, like we said before, because the AL is not as hotly contested as the NL is. I would be more surprised to see the Braves make the playoffs, especially when they have the Nationals in their division. The Nationals, time and time again, been one of the best teams in baseball. They just got a little bit better today, Monday the 18th, when they traded for Kelvin Herrera. So it's seemingly the bullpen, which has been a weak spot for them in years past, seemingly could be a strength with Sean Doolittle and Kelvin Herrera at the end of it. So games just got a little bit shorter in Washington, and so let's see. I think I would be more surprised for the Braves to make the playoffs, but I wouldn't be that surprised for either of them to make it.
Yeah, I think I'd be more shocked to see the Mariners, because it always seems like the Mariners have had a season that's always built up, and then they always seem to disappoint. But this year it seemed like their season wasn't that built up, and they've been performing up to a standard that we think that this Mariners team has been able to do in the past. And they're really doing it without their best player. We talked about this last week, how Robinson Cano was popped 80 games, and he actually won't be back for the postseason if they do make the postseason, because if you're suspended for PEDs, you can't be eligible for a postseason roster.
Yeah, that's what I was seeing too. If I'm the Mariners, I'm not even, because I heard on another podcast that the Mariners, because of that suspension, they've been putting D. Gordon at second base.
Right, yeah.
He played second for the Dodgers and Marlins, and they're putting him at second to kind of get him more comfortable with that situation for the playoffs. But if I'm the Mariners, D. Gordon, I would keep D. Gordon in the outfield, because if you look at his stats, D. Gordon's hitting has suffered since he got moved to second base.
Right.
If I'm the Mariners, I think I trade for a second baseman. I think like a second baseman from maybe a team that's hurting for prospects. Like, I don't know, the Royals have a couple guys who could play second base, and they play pretty well. And the Royals are kind of hurting for prospects, you know?
Yeah, I don't know what the Mariners have to offer, though. The Royals don't have that much to offer at second base either. They have Whit Merrifield. Ryan Goins, who's absolutely terrible, and Adalberto Mondesi, who we just called up and who isn't very good himself. The Royals have always struggled at second base. When we had those World Series run, our second baseman was Omar Infante. So, I mean, we've never been solid at the second base position.
I also saw today that I think the Rockies are making DJ LeMahieu available, so maybe he could help the Mariners out at second base. But if I'm the Mariners GM, I'm looking at potential help at second base. You know, because D. Gordon he's the spark plug at the beginning of the lineup. He's the spark. If I want him hitting well, because he's the table setter. But if I'm a Mariners fan, I'm also a little bit excited for a potential playoff run, because of the fact of how well they have been playing without Robinson Cano. Robinson Cano's not going to miss the rest of the season because of the PEDs, but because he will miss any potential playoffs that the Mariners do have, I'm excited to say, well, yeah, Robinson Cano's gone, but we played way better in the regular season without him than we did with him, you know?
No, I agree with you. We talked about how the Mariners are kind of going through a tough stretch. They just got off a series with the Angels. I think when we were recording the podcast last is when I was talking about how there's a home run derby going on. Everybody was hitting home runs. It was like Oprah giving out home runs. But the Mariners ended up sweeping that series, I believe. You said it was a 2-game series, right, KB?
I found the third game. It was a 3-game series.
3-game set, okay. Did they end up sweeping it, or was it... I know they won the series. I don't know if they swept. Okay. But they had some guys who, Ryan Healy hit 4 bombs. Mitch Haniger hit 2, didn't he?
Yeah, Mitch Haniger hit 2. Nelson Cruz also hit 2.
I mean,
this is
man.
You hear about the Bronx Bombers. You hear about the Bombers in Boston. You hear about the Chicago Cubs and all the home runs they hit. You don't hear about the sluggers they got in the Pacific Northwest, but they got a lot of them, and they are showing off their muscle this year. Gene Segura, you said last week, and we'll touch on it again. Gene Segura is having, statistically, if he keeps at this pace, one of the best seasons in MLB history.
Right.
So, like people overlook the Mariners simply because they're the Mariners. I hope they make the playoffs, and I hope they make a little bit of a run. That's what I love about baseball. You see some of the same teams, but you also see a lot of new teams in the playoffs every year, which you don't see in the other sports.
Yeah, I mean, your last 3 winners have been the Royals, the Cubs, and the Astros, all teams that haven't been to the World Series in a long time getting a shot at the crown, which is neat to see.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you love to see teams that haven't been there in a while get a chance to do it and win it.
And I heard, I could be wrong, but the Mariners have the longest active postseason drought.
Yeah, in any Big Four.
In any major sport history. So, or any current major sport. So that's exciting. I'm rooting for them.
So in summary, I think this is a pro Mariners podcast.
Pro Mariners.
Now
all the way, baby.
You talked about the Nationals earlier, how they traded for Kelvin Herrera. I'll touch on that from a Royals perspective, but from right now, from a Nationals perspective, that's solid. I mean, Herrera's a guy that you can trust to come in and slam the door. He hasn't been able to do that a lot in Kansas City because, Kansas City just doesn't put him in that situation that we need to have him come in and shut the door. We usually leave the door wide open for people to score runs. The Nationals traded number 11 prospect Blake Perkins, number 10 prospect Kelvin Gutierrez, and right-handed pitcher Johanse Morel. Read that wrong. But I think overall, from a Royals perspective, getting those prospects are good. It's a third baseman. This is Nationals number 10 prospect Kelvin Gutierrez, and outfielder Blake Perkins was their number 11th prospect. Young pitching as well coming in that, and that's what the Royals have really been emphasizing on is the pitching side of the game. It's a good trade, I think. You just hate to see guys like this go, especially one who is a World Series champion with you. Been through thick and thin, really, with the organization. Came up when they weren't very good. He was a bullpen guy and worked his way to being the closer. And it's hard to see these guys go, but it's for the best.
It's really hard to see him go, but one thing that I think Dayton Moore is doing really well is you don't know how well your team is rebuilding until you compare it to another team in the same situation. Mm-hmm. Dayton Moore is taking these players that he's signing. Kelvin Herrera, he was going to be a free agent at the end of the season, so they got 3. They got 2 of the Nationals' top 15 prospects, and then Morel, who we don't know how good he is yet, for a rental. And the Royals really need to revamp their minor league system, since they are one of 2 or 3 teams that don't have any top 100 prospects. So they really need to revamp their system. And they are taking these players that they signed John Jay free agency, turned them around for 2 pitchers. They have Kelvin Herrera, turned them around for 3 players. The Orioles they have Manny Machado, who they could probably get, I'd be willing to say, 2 top 100 prospects,
and maybe
a top 100 and maybe an MLB ready talent. I wouldn't be surprised if the Orioles got 4 players for Manny Machado. But they aren't trading him. They are content with staying where they're at. And he's said or I think he's made it clear to people around him that he's not returning to Baltimore like next year.
Right.
So I think it's ridiculous. I think the Royals are if you want to see how to rebuild, look at the Phillies, White Sox, Braves, and what Dayton Moore is being able to do with the Royals. And if you want to know how to rebuild, turn as far away from the Orioles.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think I saw a quote today from Dayton Moore who's saying that he didn't think that this year was going to be the bad year. He thought this next year, 2019, was going to be the year that the Royals really struggled, which, I mean, is not really good to hear. But does that mean the rebuild's ahead of schedule? I don't know. But
I think that's exactly what that means.
Yeah, well, I'd like to think that. But the Royals just aren't very good. I know you saw that on Friday and Saturday.
I didn't think it helped that, sure, the Royals aren't very, very good, but it didn't help that they were playing the defending world champions, and the defending world champions didn't lose any players. So
yeah, that's very true. Now, keeping with the national subject, Juan Soto did something very interesting today on Monday. He joined in a game that was suspended, but he wasn't a part of the team yet, and he played in it and hit a home run.
That's crazy.
Yeah, only a handful of players have done it, including Barry Bonds, one of the greatest home run hitters of all time. That's for another debate if he is the home run king or not. But I think he is. But it's just something neat to see. I know MLB is going crazy, like he broke. There's a rip in the space-time continuum because in the minor leagues actually that day he was 5 for 5 with a couple doubles, I think, and he had a good day down in the minors, and he comes up and hits a bomb.
Yep, May 15th, the day that will go down in infamy.
Yeah, I just think that's wild. And not a lot of times that happens, and you and I were talking about this too. Like, how did he do it? I mean, he would have had to have been a pitch hitter or been a sub.
Yeah, because especially if they pick up in the middle of the game, you probably have to have the exact same lineup. You know?
Mm-hmm. No, I think you pick up exactly where you left off. Runners on, everything, same guy pitching. Unless you make it, well, that is an interesting point about the same guy pitching. I don't know if you could change pitchers or not.
They probably have to. What if they send him out there and he has to throw the exact same amount of pitches, just like a simulated game, kind of?
Yeah, he's got.
But until he gets to the amount of pitches that he was when the game got delayed.
That would be wild.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it was a pretty interesting thing. It kind of makes your mind hurt a little bit when you think about it really hard. That game was actually, he debuted in a game before his actual debut.
Yeah, and by the time he hits his next home run, the home run that he hit in the debut before the debut will have finally landed. So it'll be weird. It's weird to think about.
Brain teaser. I don't know if you saw this on Twitter today, but the MLB home run bot, I don't know if you follow that account. It just tweets out every time there's a home run. It broke the MLB home run bot because it thought it was his first home run.
Yeah, they were like, it was like Juan
Soto, one home run.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, it was kind of cool to see. We'll go ahead and update you from Omaha, Nebraska. I don't know if you've checked out our video. We have a video out on YouTube. I went around. I talked to guys tailgating. So I talked to an LSU fan. A lot of guys from Omaha that come out and just tailgate and hang out, have a good time. It's always a good time out at the College World Series. There's some great baseball being played right now. I actually went to the first game of the College World Series, Oregon State versus UNC. It was the longest 9-inning game in College World Series history. I don't know if you knew that.
Really?
Yeah, 4.5 hours is how long. 4 hours, 24 minutes, I think, was the official time. Just round that up, though.
Yeah, you texted me saying you were on pace for a 5-hour game.
Yeah,
you got pretty damn close.
At one point, it was looking like we were going to be there for 5 hours. It didn't get over until like 6 o'clock or something like that, close to 5:30. And the next game, I think it was closer to 5:30, but the next game was supposed to start at 6. So they had to push game time back. And the other game I went to, Shane Miller and Toby Todd and I went to, It was Texas, Arkansas. You would have thought that was Fayetteville North, because it was packed with Arkansas fans. They're doing that pig suey chant that's just, just not very fun to be in if you're not an Arkansas fan.
Oh, yeah. And as Mizzou fans, we've kind of had that Arkansas rivalry pushed on us. So
Right. So I can't,
And it's worked. Yeah.
Well, I have a hard time not cheering for them, though, because they're SEC school.
Yeah.
Right now at the College World Series, Washington is leading Oregon State 5-4. As we're recording this, that game's only in the top of the sixth. They had a weather delay. That game's been a fun one, back and forth. Later tonight, we'll have Mississippi State versus UNC. That is the winner's bracket game. Mississippi State, go Dogs.
Did the Gators win?
Gators did not win. They lost to... they lost to Texas Tech last night. That's a good team.
Right.
Texas Tech is a salty club. We'll go ahead and move on to the All-Star lineups. Also, our All-Star voting is in mid-swing. It's just right in the backswing of it. If you're talking about a golf swing, at the very top. We're about to come down.
The apex.
The apex of the swing is where we're at with All-Star voting. Do you have the lineups in front of you, KB?
Yep. Well, I have the NL lineup. The AL lineup is pretty straightforward, as you would think it is.
Right. We'll talk about who we think should be in the NL one. Why don't you go through the positions?
So for the NL one, we have Buster Posey at catcher. That one's kind of close between Buster Posey, Wilson Contreras, and Kurt Suzuki.
Mm-hmm.
But Buster Posey is leading right now. That one's a given. He's a proven all-star, arguably the best catcher in the league right now. The leading vote getter in the NL is Freddie Freeman, who I think Freddie Freeman is quietly putting together an MVP caliber season.
Yeah.
But he's hiding in the names of Albies and Acuna. He's hiding behind the names of those guys. So he's quietly having an MVP caliber season. So
really a resurgence for him.
Really, it really has been. He's quietly I think that he's performed as well, like across these seasons, but because the Braves have been so bad, nobody's really paid attention to him.
No, I agree with you. Who you got at second base?
Second base, Ozzie Albies.
Yep,
which makes sense. He's a big name right now. He leads Javi Baez by almost 200,000 votes, and Scooter Gennett is in there at third. Scooter Gennett is really close to Javi Baez, but I think Albies deserves the nod. He's been outstanding all year. Shortstop is Brandon Crawford, who is another guy quietly having a really good season.
Yeah.
At the Bay for a underperforming Giants ball club. Really, the Giants have three guys. For first base, Brandon Belt is third in voting right now. The Giants have a lot of guys that could potentially be in the All-Star game, and they are currently a sub-500 team in third place in a week, in the arguably the second weakest division in baseball.
Right, but if you look at Brandon Crawford's stats, his stats are just better than any other shortstop there is, right, or in the National League right now. And simply, he should be the
he deserves it.
Starter. Yeah.
You see Brandon Crawford starting shortstop, and you're like, really, Brandon Crawford starting shortstop? And then I'm like, and then you'd be asked, well, what other shortstop in the NL deserves the nod?
Right. The only other one I could think of is Trevor Story, and he's still not hitting very well.
He has never been able to match his rookie season.
Right.
Really, second place is Dansby Swanson, who at this point has about half the votes that Brandon Crawford has.
Yeah, he'll still get on the All-Star team, though, if he doesn't start.
Oh, yeah. And then at third base is perennial All-Star, my opinion, the best third baseman in baseball right now, Nolan Arenado.
Yeah.
That's one name that you can kind of pencil in for starting third base for the NL All-Star team for the foreseeable future, at least until his contract with the Rockies expires.
No, I totally agree with you. He's the best to do it. We talked about him last week, of just how strong his arm is. He's a good ball player, can hit the ball well, field the ball well. Now, I believe that there's a little bit of, I don't want to say controversy, but there's some debate in the outfield who should be of starters.
Yeah. Okay, so looking at it, I really like the Nick Markakis in the outfield. All right, Tucker, here's a little Kieran's quiz for you.
All right.
Off the top of your head, how many career hits do you think Nick Markakis has?
I don't think he's hit 3,000, has he?
Nope. But
is he at 2,500?
No, he's at 2,100 right now.
Oh.
But that was more than I thought he was. He's a guy who played for a very bad Baltimore team, and then right as Baltimore was getting good, 2014, he moved to a very bad Braves team. So he's been a very good player on very bad teams.
Yeah.
And it's about, this is his age 34 going into 35 season. This would be his first All-Star game nod, which I think he deserves it, you know?
Yeah, no, I'm with you with that. And I think the only reason I thought that he had so many high hits is because just the sheer amount of seasons that he's played. And and he's a singles hitter. He's not really a power hitter, so a guy that hits a lot of singles, is more likely have more at-bats because he'll hit higher up in the order. So I did overestimate a little bit, but it didn't shock me that he had less than what I thought.
Looking at Nick Markakis, he's second in the National League in average for outfielders. And I believe he leads them in RBIs. Yeah. So he has been that's another guy on the Braves team that has kind of been overshadowed by the Albies and Acuna. Matt Kemp is your starting center fielder right now. He leads them, he leads the National League outfielders in average, and he is second in RBIs with 43. He's also got 12 bombs, kind of a resurgence back in Los Angeles. And in right field is where the kind of controversy comes up. But Bryce Harper is there, which it's not even really controversy. He's got over 1 million votes. It's a home game for him. Yeah. The fans want to see him. He leads National League outfielders in home runs. I think he even leads the National League in home runs. So even though he's average-wise, he's hitting 216, fans are going to vote him in. They want to see him. He drops bombs. So
I believe
it's controversy, non-controversy.
Yeah, a lot of this is popularity contest too, and that helps him that it's a home game, and I think you're seeing his average drop because his home runs are going up. I think you're seeing that all over the league too.
Yeah, it's really a shift in what executives are looking at, where they're starting to favor home runs over like average, and home runs over strikeouts, stuff like that.
Right.
They're it's just kind of a shift in what they're looking for. You got something else?
Nope. Go ahead.
All right, moving on to the AL. It's really straightforward. The only real surprise, real source of controversy is Gary Sanchez behind the plate. Wilson Ramos is making a real push, but I think Salvi should be getting more love than he is, but he missed like a month, so he doesn't quite have the eligibility yet. But then let me take you around the horn. DH JD Martinez, obviously.
Yep.
First base Jose Abreu. Second base Jose Altuve. Shortstop Manny Machado. Third base Jose Ramirez. Then the outfield of Betts, Trout, and Judge. So that's real straightforward.
Yeah, the only thing I could really think of is maybe Yuri Gurriel sneaking in at first base.
But Jose Abreu's having a hell of a season.
Yeah,
he is tearing it.
Well, Jose Abreu, I know from firsthand for playing those guys, it seems like 5,000 times a year. That dude can mash the ball.
Yeah. Yep. So it's really not even. It's really straightforward in the AL.
And I'm with you with Salvador Perez needs more love. I don't even know if he's really eligible for the All-Star game. What is it? How many games do you have to be eligible? Do we know that rule off the top of our head?
I couldn't tell you.
I don't think I could either, but it's just so disappointing that, Salvador Perez is really, his caught stealing rate is very high, and it seems like he's throwing everybody out who runs on him. Dude's hitting a lot of home runs now, or since he came back, I think he has 11 or 12, which, Royals don't play. They play in a pitcher's park, so it's kind of impressive when a Royals player has more than, Moose set the record last year at, I think it was 37, so...
Yeah.
Anything else on the AL All-Stars?
No, that's really all. Straightforward, as everybody expected.
Yeah, we'll move on to the Farm Report, then wrap up with the series to watch with KB. What I have for the Farm Report, Reds number 1 and MLB number 5 prospect Will Craig boosted his season line to 263, 342, and 493 with 11 bombs in 61 games. He tapped into his power as of late and has hit more balls in the air than in the ground, which is good to see if a guy is your number 1 prospect, number 5 overall. Will Craig is a stud, man.